Okay, in this video I'm going to be looking at how to use your calculator to find the um, predicted values and residual values and your squared of your the square of your residuals and the sum of your squared residuals, similar to what we did in lesson 2.2. So this will be how you can use your calculator to do this. So why don't you guys go ahead and open up a spreadsheet, and we're going to call this first column X and put these values in for X, negative, or in that column, -5, -4, -2, -1, and 3. These are our observed values. So let's say if we actually knew these values, these are, remember, the observed values are what really happened, what we really know, whether it was from a survey or whether it's from just collecting data over time. But these are the observed values: 5, 3, 2, -1, and -5. Always, like I said, make sure you title a column, otherwise what we're going to be doing today will not work out. So pause the video and put those in and hit play when you're ready to move on. Okay, so let's see what we do next. Now, let's say if we knew that what the equation was to be able to get our predicted values. So next we're going to come up with our predicted value column. And so we'll just call this PRED. And let's say that I knew the equation was -1.25x minus 1.75. So I'm going to type this in, but what we want to do is we want to type this in as an equation. Now, this calculator works just like a regular spreadsheet. If you're familiar with Excel or other spreadsheets, if we're going to use a formula, we have to first put in equals. So in that way, your calculator recognizes the fact that we're going to put a formula in here. So we're going to put in -1.25. But let's say the equation was asking us to do x. Well, we're not going to put x here. We're going to type in whatever the first value is in this cell. So instead of putting in -5, I'm going to read this cell as this is the cell that's in column A, and it's the first one. So this is cell A1. So we're going to put that in parentheses to say that it's being multiplied by -1.25. And then we're going to subtract 1.75. Again, this would be the equation that they give us as the prediction equation. Or we could also get an equation like this by using a scatter plot and a line of best fit. But once you get that typed in, hit enter, and we get our value there, 4.5. Okay, so now I want to be able, I don't want to have to type in that formula a whole bunch of times. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that formula and fill it down. The way that you can do that is if you go to Menu, go to Data, and Fill. Menu, Data, Fill. And when you do that, it doesn't seem like anything happens. Well, if you arrow down on your calculator, down to the last value in our spreadsheet here, and hit enter, it'll fill in that data for us. Okay, now we're going to go to the next column, column D, and we're going to call this the residuals. We're going to go down to this first spot, and then recall from what we talked about that to find the residual value, it's always the observed amount minus the predicted. Okay, it's always the observed value minus the predicted value. So what I'm going to do here is I'm not going to type in observed minus predicted. First I'm going to type in equals, so I know that my calculator knows I'm doing a formula. But I'm going to take B1 minus C1 and hit enter. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that and fill it down. So again, what we do is we go to Menu, Data, Fill, and then, and then arrow down and hit enter. Okay, so now what you want to do is we want to find the square of those residuals. So if I go up to column E, I'm going to call this SQRESID for the squared residuals. Arrow down. And the square residuals, what that does is it squares each of these values. So to do that, we're going to go to hit the equals. And then this is D1. So I'm going to tell it to square that value in D1. So we're going to take D1 squared. and hit enter. And we want to fill that value down. So go to Menu, Data, Fill, arrow it down, and there we get the squared residuals. Now, to find the sum of the squared residuals, like your assignment asks you to do, you're going to go to the Home button and go down to the calculator screen. And all we're going to do is we're going to type in SUM for sum. And then in parentheses, we're going to tell it to take the sum of the squared residuals. So I type in SQRESID. Notice how it even gave it bold print there saying, is this the title of one of your columns? And yes, it is. And hit enter, and we get 2.375. So that tells us that the sum of the squared residuals is pretty small, indicating that that line of fit that we were working with is a good line of best fit for our data. So that is how we find the sum of the squared residuals. It takes a little bit of time by creating the table, but you can see that it's much faster using your calculator than by doing it by hand. However, you do need to be familiar with both methods. So with that, good luck now as you do some of these on your own.